Now, let's move to representations of the Middle East and the so-called Orient. There remains a tendency among theme park designers to otherize people from Asia and the Middle East. Orientalist perceptions from the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago have persisted into the private theme park industry. Edward Said developed his theory of Orientalism, publishing the namesake book in 1979. Said argued that the West
develops a kind of image of the timeless Orient, as if the Orient, unlike the West, doesn't develop, it stays the same. And that's one of the problems with Orientalism, is it creates an image outside of history, of something that is placid and still and, eternal, which is simply contradicted by the facts of history. You see, so in that one sense, it's a creation of you might say an ideal other for Europe.
At World's Fair and at theme parks, representations of the Middle East and the Greater Orient exist in uncertain times and uncertain places. I'm Historical Method Man, and this is Orientalism in the Theme Park. Please consider subscribing. Illinois urban historian Eric Sandweiss gave considerable detail about Middle Eastern representation at the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition. Throughout the fair, Western audiences found Western simulations of the Orient more authentic. Henry Ives Cobb created an East India pavilion that was praised for being, quote, better Indian than any example erected at the fair by the natives themselves, end quote. At the same time, Daniel Hudson Burnham ordered that refinement and sobriety is to be preferred to anything that is sensational and startling in appearance. Oriental designs should be avoided, as such motives will naturally be employed by the Oriental nations in the erection of their own buildings. Occidental designs were supposed to show the height of civilization, and in the Orientalist sense, the Orient and non-West were everything that the West was not. In line with the civilizing mission tradition, the Western heads of the World's Columbian Exposition believed that they alone could represent the Orient better than the Orientals themselves. The physical culmination of this belief was the streets in Cairo. The streets in Cairo was one of the most successful attractions at the World's Columbian Exposition due to its exciting difference and exotic qualities. Twice daily, a parade of performers, wrestlers, musicians, clowns, and sword swallowers moved through the street on the same path a veiled new bride would make every evening. Gazers, especially male ones, also had the opportunity to observe Little Egypt doing the hoochie coochie belly dance. Mass American consumer audiences adored this entertainment form that packages world cultures and displays them excitingly different. An attraction most representative of the Middle East and the so-called Orient is Fata Morgana, 1981 to present, at De Efteling in Katsuval, Netherlands. Dutch attraction designer Van de Ven based this attraction on Anton Pieck's illustrations for 1001 Arabian Nights. Fata Morgana features 137 animatronics, some outsourced and others built in-house. Fata Morgana roughly translates to mirage, and it is located in the Anderijke area of the park, roughly translating to different realm. The ride takes place in a land that is explicitly other to Europe and the West. Moreover, the Arabic lettering and writing throughout this attraction is incomprehensible to Arabic speakers. Fata Morgana's use of the Arabic language is limited to transliterations, using the letters ba, alif, and ra to spell out bar. The modern standard Arabic word for bar is hijaz. This intentional misuse of language does not authentically represent the Middle East because the Arabic writing in the entire attraction by extension is gibberish. Steve Nelson on Epcot wrote, "When presented as exotic entertainment, the social practices of alien cultures are tamed and reduced from the complex to the curious." This exoticization also applies to Fata Morgana, wherefore the attraction begins with a mysterious float through the jungle before encountering a wizard animatronic who commands the door into the so-called Forbidden City. Following, guests are immediately confronted with beggars in the poor quarter. This simulated slum housing is dilapidated and filled with scattered excess. In the following market scene, riders encounter a genie bottle seller, a snake charmer, and a magic carpet seller. Another animatronic in a dark alley is a screaming and gesticulating figure who tries to warn us not to go any further. The rider's impressions of the Orient is one of foreboding. In the subsequent prison scene, an Arab can be seen pointing his gun at us, according to an unofficial ride synopsis. The shooting of the gun triggers a splash effect on both sides of the boat, misting riders. The prison scene also includes a major feature of submechanophobia, with a prisoner drowning in his waterlogged cell. This prison is inhumane, the other's justice backwards. The riders are then saved by the wizard from before, and like a deus ex machina, the ride concludes with scenes of a harem, throne room, and treasury. De Efteling's Fata Morgana portrays the Middle East and Orient as ahistorical, static, and backwards. This portrayal happened because the creators of the attraction looked towards a mythical past from 1001 Arabian Nights, rather than a historical interpretation of visiting a real and specific place. A more recent attraction that plays on Orientalist tropes is Akbar's Adventure Tours, 1998, an accessible motion simulator in the Egypt-themed land at Busch Gardens, Tampa. This attraction combined comedic writing, horror action, and outdated Orientalism. Akbar's Adventure Tours stars Martin Short as Akbar and Eugene Levy as Omar, where the premise is a 5-minute tour of all of Egypt. In the attraction story, as told by the pre-show, Akbar is a debtor and struggling business owner getting repossessed. Both Martin Short and Eugene Levy wore brownface and spoke in Arabic accents. The attraction's racism only begins here. Akbar devises a plan by the end of the pre-show, where Omar will show his movies and the rich tourists will give us all their money. If I become rich, you become rich like them, points to the audience. The riders move into a 59-seat motion simulator with 6 degrees of free movement. Wind blows into guests' faces as they embark on the first scene, a camel ride through the streets of Cairo, filmed in Morocco, which explains the rocking movement of the motion base. Akbar's first scene is hectic, men swinging swords, while others breathe fire and charm snakes. The first scene, Tour of Egypt Market on Camel, connects well to the Streets of Cairo attraction at the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition because both showcased an overly crowded market bustling with exotic excitement. This digital simulation begins with 2 costumed men with dwarfism opening a curtain before a group of belly dancers pedal off. The audience bobs through the market until the second scene, a soaring flight near the Great Pyramids of Giza. Riders watch Omar crash into the Sphinx with the CGI destruction of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The final scene is a minecart ride to encounter a monstrous mummy, but in the end, Akbar finds treasure from an ancient tomb. I speculate that no Egyptian or Arabic language speakers were consulted on this project. The creators of Akbar's Adventure Tours reduced all of Egypt to an unhinged market, a crumbling tourist site, and a monstrous encounter. Over the course of 100 years, from the 1893 World's Columbian Exhibition to Busch Gardens, Tampa in the 1990s, Western depictions of the Middle East and the so-called Orient have changed little because the West fundamentally misunderstands the non-West. These attractions place the Middle East and the Orient into a category both ahistorical and static. Conclusion. In sum and substance, this video is about theme parks and the artificial bodies that inhabit them, extending previous histories of wax figures to include more recent developments in producing artificial humans. We saw how humans have made great progress in the technological development of bodies without experience. Animatronics are also useful primary sources for historical inquiry because they are simulations of the human. They take on human speech, human movement, and in the future, seemingly human thought processes with artificial intelligence. This video demonstrates that creators have been augmenting artificial bodies to make them more human. But dehumanizing colonial and racial processes prevent the humanizing project. But dehumanizing colonial and racial processes prevent the humanizing project's efficacy. When trying to humanize the animatronic, commodity racism makes it harder for guests to view differences with authenticity. In 2017, Pandora: The World of Avatar at Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park received much fanfare for its attention to detail and otherworldly scale. The land's two attractions, the Na'vi River Journey and Avatar Flight of Passage, continue the imperial adventure genre and trope common in film and other attractions like the Jungle Cruise. Dutch psychologist and communication scholars Jaap van Genneken studied James Cameron's 2009 mega-blockbuster Avatar and came to the conclusion that this movie is an imperial adventure film with a plot centered around intercultural encounters. Van Genneken outlined 5 themes from the film that also apply to the attraction. First, the underpopulated virgin land. Second, of the primitive native tribe. Third, of the indigenous natural worldview. Fourth, of imperial armed intervention. And fifth, of the beautiful native girl. All of these themes should be incredibly familiar to those who know about the archetype of cowboys versus Indians. But these attractions are unique because their others are explicitly alien and inhuman. Both attractions in the land use an alien other because representing humans as other has fallen out of style in recent memory. The land's minor attraction, the Na'vi River Journey, allows the riders to go deep into the heart of darkness of Pandora's jungle interior. This attraction features perhaps the most advanced audio animatronic of the 21st century, the Shaman of Songs. As noted by Van Genneken, the native Na'vi of Avatar are, quote, assigned to the primary color cyan blue in order to stay away from this real-life race heritage, but still within the same repertoire. Most also have the long black hair of Native Americans, but some also show the fashionable braids of African Americans, end quote. With Pandora, the World of Avatar, the Walt Disney Company replaced authentic human indigeneity with the Na'vi species who are taller, bluer, and more feline than anything human. Pandora's headliner attraction, Avatar Flight of Passage, allows the guests to do what the early explorers did in the Avatar story, to inhabit natives' bodies as avatars, to win the locals over. The story begins at the start of the queue, where guests navigate the natural beauty of Pandora. The first interior section of the queue contains native cave paintings of the Na'vi and associated Banshee creatures, which illustrates a unique native knowledge of interacting with nature. Visitors traverse an abandoned industrial site ran by the fictional mining company, the RDA, where the bioluminescent forest has grown over. This section of the queue shows the imperial enemy, those who seek to destroy native Na'vi life in the name of profit. The final section of the attractions queue is a science lab run by humans that seek to work with the Na'vi. Here is a lab-manufactured body of a Na'vi, an avatar. The following pre-show and safety spiel announces,
the way you'll be able to fly is by linking to an avatar that's already on the back of the Necron. Let's see how this works.
We establish a link using powerful psionic amplification equipment. A human driver is connected to an avatar, which could be physically hundreds of kilometers away.
Human guests embody the other in order to take a sacred rite of passage reserved for the Na'vi themselves. This ride invites guests not only to observe the other, but to become them. In the land story, travel to Pandora is only possible because of an earthen tourist company, Alpha Centauri Expeditions. Fence post marked ACE helped make the theme park infrastructure diegetic. The idea is that this othered alien race is cooperating with human tourists' desires and demands. No longer is it politically correct to do this with indigenous human people, but there still is this Western desire to use people for tourist experiences. Disney's Animal Kingdom replaces real others with fictional alien ones. These fictional people fulfill the desires of tourists both inside and outside of the story. This video is but a brief inquiry into how theme park elements like attractions, animatronics, and story portrays human difference. Further researchers must undergo comprehensive study of whiteness in American and European theme parks. If I had more time, I would have incorporated further arguments about the nature of belly dancing within the American and European theme parks as another continuation from the World's Fair tradition. Furthermore, this video looks exclusively at Western theme parks, and there is much to learn from these tourist destinations within the non-West. This video bridges a continuity between the histories of wax figures and robotics. I sincerely believe that this video's largest contribution is in method. Social Media 2.0 opened up a world of objects to study that are too new to have an established archive. Moreover, the websites that contain this information were not professionalized, and there was not an established method for approaching these sources. The same approach of using digital research methods and traditional historical methods can be useful for the analysis of other categories such as gender, class, and disability. Much like humankind, anthropomorphic animatronics have a large range of diversity, most human and some other. If you made it all the way this far, you are a real G for that one. I really appreciate you watching all hour and 20 minutes of this video. So please subscribe if you made it this far. So you are elite. You are elite for getting the end of this. If you made it to the end of this video, please leave a comment about your favorite animatronic. That's how I know where the real ones are.